Start your day with the squad to survive. Ravi, Lulla, and Damon, and Hurrdat Sports live. From Omaha to the nation, we thrive. Talking Huskers, Blue Jays, keep the spirit alive. Red runs deep, then Nebraska pride. Cornfields to the skyline where legends reside. Big plays, bold takes, no room to hide. Tune in daily, catch the energy ride.
Hurrdat Sports Live.
Hurrdat Sports live, where the game comes alive. Ravi, Damon on the mic, yeah, they always provide. From Nebraska football to hoops that fly. Omaha's heartbeat, can't just don't deny. Huskers hit the field, black shirts on attack. Memorial roads loud, no holding us back. Korean Blue Jays in the air, no cracks, fast breaks, slam dunks, all nets, all facts. Ravi with the quick wit, Damon with the insight. Morning sports talk, yeah, it's feeling just right. Nebraska roots strong, we're shining so bright. Sipping coffee, tune in, let's ignite. Hurrdat Sports live, where the game comes alive.
Good morning. Welcome into Hurrdat Sports Live. I'm Ravi. That's Rico. We got Austin here as well. Little bowl game pre-game special edition of the show. What's up, boys? How we doing?
Good to see you, Ravi. Good to see you, Rico. Glad you guys are still alive.
Fantastic to see both of you. This is going to be great. I'm glad you both made it through your holidays.
Why wouldn't we be alive?
I don't know. It's a long holiday break. I didn't know what to wear today because it's a red out for Utah. And I assume Nebraska's not going to wear black and surprise us. So I don't know. It was kind of a tough choice.
That would be sick if they brought out the black jerseys. They were just like, why not? They said red out. Okay, cool. Yeah. They're not going to wear all white, obviously.
Would that be a good look to do the white tops and the black bottoms? You'd have to do all white. I don't think you'd have to do any red.
You'd either have to go all white
and then black bottoms.
Yeah. Could you? No, never mind. That would look so stupid. I was going to say, could you do black tops and red bottoms?
No,
don't like that.
That's dumb. Yeah, that's dumb.
Yes, Kobe, we are live. Like live.
We've always been live. What are you talking about? This has all been very live content.
Every single show has been live.
But like this is actually live.
Yeah, and also from our homes and
yes.
the construction zone that is Hurrdat Sports main offices, which
I would say you're at the office. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Well, it was either doing it here or waking up the dog, and I she needs her 10 hours of sleep, so I have to be able to, let her get what she needs.
She needs a beauty rest.
Don't disturb Ava at all.
Are you okay?
No, I couldn't say words there for a second.
Is this too early for you?
Don't disturb.
Yeah, it was a little tricky there for a second. We're good though. We're all right. Hopefully.
Are you on Vegas time?
Yes. Yeah. No, I've been in Vegas. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not in Vegas. I might be a Vegas mindset, but no, not actually in Vegas. I'm at my home. Rico appears to be in his basement, and Austin is at the headquarters where we will have a new studio soon.
Yes, they better finish the construction. That's what we need to have happen.
Well, yeah, we're not going to do shows from there while they're doing construction. That'd be silly.
That would be very silly.
Unless you're Austin, and then you're like, yeah, let's do.
Sorry, I don't have any work-life balance. It's called work and then life. All right.
It's called work. Need a bit of life. Work.
Yeah, Austin just has a work balance.
I try. Hey, Ravi, I have a question.
Yeah, what's up? I'm ready.
Do you feel any differently about this game since let's say December 10th?
Yeah, no, it's been a weird run here.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot going on in this game that I don't really know what to expect. I think Nebraska's got more of a shot than people are giving them credit for at this point. Like the whole Utah coaching thing is super weird.
Yes. I'm
like that whole sequence of events is very strange.
I'm very curious as to why the line hasn't moved as much as it did because of that. And I don't know, like I'm curious to talk to MRI about this because he actually went through something similar where his coach was let go and then they went and played a bowl game with the knowledge that a new coach was already coming into. But this is even more unique than that because this happened during their bowl preparation, even though they knew Whittingham was going to be moving on anyway. So I don't really know like what to take from this and like what kind of stamp and how motivated Utah is going to be, because as dumb as it is, and yes, football's still a competitive sport. It's about physicality. It's all that other stuff. Bowl games especially, and we've seen this in times because it's the SEC's number one excuse when they have a terrible bowl record, is how motivated you are coming into the game. And it's a 14-point spread, so I'm not going to say motivation is like the main factor in this one, but it kind of feels like it could limit the ability of what Utah does extremely well because of how well either they're prepared or how much they actually want to be in this game.
I will say that Morgan Scalley was named the head coach in waiting in 2024. So this is something that they've probably been, obviously not this quickly or exactly what transpired, but this is something that they've been preparing for. And Whittingham has probably prepared Scalley to take over for him whenever he needed to. And I'm sure that the preparations were in order and everything was in the process of getting moved over and what have you when he announced that he was going to be retiring. But, having him going to be coaching in the bowl game and all that stuff, and then Michigan just coming in and taking him away, and you hear, oh, he's not going to be coaching in the bowl game. I'm sure that threw a little bit of a wrench, but I with how great Kyle Whittingham has been for Utah and how consistent they've been, I'm not that surprised by the line not moving as much as it has, just because Scalley and Whittingham probably in lockstep on how everything was supposed to go regardless.
Yeah, I gotta disagree there, Rico. Like, I don't think this was the plan at all. I think this ended up going super weird on him. Like,
I'm not saying that this was the plan. It did go super weird on them, but I think that everything was in place for him to take over. It just happened a lot faster and a lot weirder than they would have hoped.
But then on that same note, though, and like what Ravi's getting at too is it's like the process in which it went, because it's almost like they were walking towards the altar together, and then Whittingham gets like 3/4 of the way down and then just goes, I'm actually good, and then turns about and then starts kissing his like ex-girlfriend like in the back of the church. Like it's a very weird like how this all went about, how quickly he left. And I mean, he was being asked at the Michigan press conferences, did you do any bowl preparation? Like, were you helping out? And he kind of admitted he was like 1 foot out the entire time they were getting ready for Nebraska. So even in that sense, like you can say like, yeah, Scalley is the next guy up. That's all true. Like the guys in that locker room probably knew that. But in terms of just this one game sample size, they had to turn over maybe what he wanted to do, what Whittingham was preparing them for, completely over in the past like 2 weeks or 10 days or however long this process has been.
Yeah, I think the thing for me is I don't think there was, like, I think one of two things happened here. Number one, kind of like Funky Giblet says, I think it's possible that Whittingham was sort of forced out before he wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one plausible option. The initial announcement, I think it was from Nicole Auerbach, who reported initially like, hey, he's not retiring. And that was same day. They're like, yeah, he's gone at Utah, but he is 100% not retired. Mm-hmm. That was a super weird way to just start this whole thing, right? Because I think the assumption with the head coach in waiting was that he would retire and then Scalley would take over. Like that, I think, was everybody sort of, this is the plan here. So when it came out immediately, like, yeah, Scalley's going to take over, Whittingham's gone, but he is 100% not retired, that got things off to a very weird start. Secondly, so I think that's option number one, is that he was pushed out before he was ready. I think option number two, as you mentioned, with the 1 foot out the entire time with bowl prep for Utah, I think there's a chance Michigan and him came to an agreement before he stepped aside. Like, yeah. I think that's on the table, and that his plan, this is the way I looked at it, was, and I said this real time the day he got fired, or the day, not fired, I guess, the day he stepped aside, is this feels like a Michigan move. And DB asked the same thing of Monday, of Sam, I think the next Monday. Like, it was, I think there's a chance that the reason he stepped aside is because he came to an agreement with Michigan, but they agreed to keep it under wraps so that he could still coach Utah in the bowl game. And then it was going to get out, so they bailed on that plan. Mm-hmm. Like that, those I think are the only two plausible scenarios here, because this whole thing has been weird from the jump. Like, yeah. I don't think anything went according to plan here. So you've got Kyle Whittingham gonna coach Utah in the bowl game. Announced he's step aside, still gonna coach Utah in the bowl game. Then that's pretty close after the game is announced, right? And then you've got this. Hey, he's become the head coach at Michigan. And all of a sudden, he's not coaching the bowl game. He's just out of here. Mm-hmm. And then you've got this other factor with this game, and this moves aside from the coaching part of it, which I think is enough to make to question where Utah's at mentally. But you also have, like, I think people forget Utah was 10-2.
Yeah,
they don't want, like, Las Vegas Bowl was not where they thought they should be at 10-2. Their only losses, if I'm not mistaken, I don't have it in front of me, are Texas Tech and BYU.
Two teams that are either in the playoff or one that was just on the outside, yes.
And they go, okay, so why weren't we in that discussion? Why wasn't it Miami, Alabama, Notre Dame, Utah, BYU in this discussion? They weren't even considered, really. Like, they were clearly on the outside looking in. And so
they lost to BYU by 3 and Texas Tech by 24.
Yeah, Texas Tech stomped them. But the
Texas
BYU
Tech stomped
game,
everybody.
The BYU game was very close. And so I'm sitting here and I go, okay, you've got, and we know we know a certain number of opt-outs already for Utah. I don't think we know the full extent.
Well, there's 2 starting offensive linemen to start, which
at
is
least, yes,
huge for a team that loves to run the ball. Now they're great pass protectors too, but obviously when you look at their rushing numbers, you lose 2 offensive linemen. Kind of, it makes you feel like a little more confident in the way that maybe a defense can attack them and maybe get them a little bit out of sorts on their cohesion offensive line wise.
Yeah, and I think I think the 2 offensive linemen, I've heard rumors that it might be more, but that we know 2 for sure that have announced. I think this is a very, very strange spot for Utah between what their season was, between what their head coaching situation is, and opt-outs. Like, this is way more of a wild card game, in my opinion, than people seem to think. Certainly more than Vegas seems to think. And we haven't even gotten to the Nebraska side of this yet.
Yep.
Which I also think could be a huge factor here, because I sit here and I go, okay, I asked this before we went on break to almost everybody that we talked to. I go, okay, what are the chances that Nebraska's defense looks dramatically different just in terms of effort, intensity, rallying to the ball, things like that are not scheme dependent, right? If I asked MRI, who we're going to talk to at 9, I asked everybody that we talked to, like, is there a chance that they just dumb this thing all the way down, put the guys on the field that feel confident in what they're being asked to do, and everybody just flies around, and this looks like a totally different defense? Because I do think that's on the table. Like, yeah. I'm not – that's one of the things I think in 4 weeks actually could look different. I'm not saying Orich will have his stuff in by then. I think but listen to the way Phil Snow's talked over the course of the weeks he's been sort of in charge of the defense for bowl prep. Like, that dude just wants guys to play with their hair on fire, and he's going to make it as simple as possible to get the most aggressive guys on the field. And, like, I think there's a chance this defense looks way different. I don't know, right? Like, I think that's a big wild card as well. But some of these things could work dramatically in Nebraska's favor. And I haven't even gotten to the offensive line with Jeep Wade, who's fully integrated already. Like, he's just boom, ready to go. And
he's kind of saying exactly what you were just saying with this offensive line. He's like, just go out there and play.
Yeah.
Just go be aggressive and move people.
And not to mention, okay, it seems like TJ Latif's healthy based on what we've heard from Matt Rule.
Oh, it's the Vegas warmth, it helps.
Yeah, it keeps those hammies warm, you got to keep that blood flowing.
Mm-hmm.
But you're telling me there's not a chance that TJ Latif looks really good after having several weeks of prep here behind an offensive line that's, just playing with all effort and all intent. Like, I don't know, man. Like, there's a lot of variables in this game that I don't think people are accounting for.
Ravi, can I talk a little Nebraska's defense versus Utah's rushing attack? I've got the stats here because I was curious. This is one thing that interested me from the very beginning of this, because yes, Utah is a very good rushing team. Like, I want to preface that. And a lot of the stats that I'm going to say coming up, some of them are primarily because some of the teams that they played had to play Utah, and Utah had a good rushing day against them. But they are second in the country in rushing yards per game behind Navy, which is always a good place to be if you're behind one of the academies. Mm-hmm. And Nebraska's 102nd in rushing defense. Now, I agree with you in what you're saying, because Nebraska identified where their issues were defensively and already took that out and said, whatever it takes to improve right now. And they're hopefully going to be able to show that. Here are the rushing team stats, essentially, for every game that they played. So the ranking of rushing yards per game allowed for every defense they played this year. Okay. 111th in FCS school, 100th, first in the 24-point loss to Texas Tech, 66th, 25th, 36th, 132nd, 104th, 123rd, 88th, and 106th. Those were the defenses that they played that, what is that? Like over 3/4 of their season, they played teams that were in the bottom 40 schools in rushing yards per game allowed. And yes, again, like I'm not trying to take anything away from Utah or anything like that, but you get a lot of these yards by stomping on opponents that aren't very good at stopping the run.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Nebraska is one of those schools. Like, don't get me wrong about that, but Nebraska had a chance that none of these other schools did to change their philosophy with 4 weeks of prep to do so. It's a completely different narrative and scenario. And yes, they are going to be missing some key players with injuries. I mean, we just heard Deshaun Singleton's going to be out for this game as well. There's going to be new players and a couple of new faces that will play. But I think, like you had said before, and like what we have agreed upon almost as a fan base, the effort I think you will see today will be significantly different. And part of that rushing defense felt like it was a lot of effort and maybe even some misplacement. So if those get corrected in 4 weeks, this 102nd ranked rushing defense for Nebraska has a very good chance to prove that they can compete against one of the top rushing offenses in college football.
I will say that, hearing those numbers kind of terrifies me a little bit more. Even with the effort and the youth and getting new bodies in there, and however different the defense is going to look with new bodies and with Phil Snow leading the charge kind of on the defensive side of the ball, it still kind of scares me a little bit just because Utah is the most Big Ten team that is not in the Big Ten. So to face a team that does exactly what you struggle against and you have struggled against all season, regardless of having 4 extra weeks of practice, you're still, you're breaking in a new defensive coordinator. You're breaking in a whole bunch of new players potentially at whatever position. So I understand it might be free and fast and however they're going to do it, but you're still going to need the technique. You're still going to need to know where each other person is going to be in order to fill your gaps and fill your holes. And having, some more youth out there that maybe they don't know, that maybe they don't know exactly where they're supposed to be, when they're supposed to be there. It's going to be, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a couple times Nebraska gets gashed early and maybe begins to figure it out as the game goes on, but they're going to have to be able to weather the storm of Utah early, in my opinion.
I think listen, it's 100% on the table that Utah is who they've been all year, and they run roughshod over Nebraska, and Nebraska's defense is what it was all year, and we're not going to see dramatic changes or differences until next year. Like, that's definitely on the table. I also think it's on the table that, like, I do think the run defense was an effort thing. And I don't mean that I don't think the guys were trying. I think there was so much confusion on what they were supposed to be doing that it was impossible to look like you were going 100%. And I don't think we can underestimate how valuable that is, especially in run defense, right? DB says it all the time with that run defense is attitude and effort more than anything. And I keep going back to that because those are the things you can fix in 4 weeks, especially with a new defensive coordinator in the building, with Phil Snow running things. And I think with guys that are probably better suited to be in some of those spots. Now, I don't know like Deshaun Singleton played really well this year. I wasn't a huge fan coming into this year. He played really well. So he's a loss, obviously. Like Deshaun McCullough is a loss, but I also think there is something to, like, I like a lot of the really young guys. As part of my frustration with Butler this year was we didn't see him. We didn't see any of the guys that I think are talented and can play in this defense. And so if you are able to simplify things for those guys, I really do think it could look way better than the 102nd ranked rush defense in the country. And again, Austin brought it up with offensive linemen. Like, we're not dealing with the same Utah team either. So when you're taking some of the strength away from Utah, and I think taking some of the weakness away from Nebraska, I do think this is a matchup that, like, no result from this would surprise me, but that includes Nebraska actually standing up to this pretty well in terms of their rush defense.
Are people going to if Nebraska wins this, are people going to take the whole Utah's ranked, but they're missing a whole bunch of players, so this win doesn't actually count for rule, and Nebraska beating a ranked team, and it's a bowl game?
Doing that. Listen, it doesn't matter. There's a number next to their name; it counts.
Yeah,
like if I can't go back and count games from teams that ended up ranked, this one counts.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter. Like if Oregon counted, that's the last one we're counting. That team was 4-8. Nobody cares.
That team was bad.
Yeah,
that team was legit just bad. They were 4-8. And everybody's like, that's the last ranked win. We all agree. I don't care. There's a number next to the name. It counts.
Got it.
And listen, 100% of how we feel about this game, I don't think has anything necessarily to do with the final score. Like, there's a part of it that if it's like a complete blowout and Utah just gets either decimated by Nebraska or Utah decimates Nebraska, whatever the case is. But I think that if you have been watching this team for the 12 games so far this year and you see what you want to see, and you see the improvement either in effort, in the ability of the defense to step up when called upon. If Latif looks very competitive like we saw against UCLA, and of course that second half against Penn State, and a little bit more when he wasn't dinged up against Iowa, if you see the backup running backs perform well, this is a visual eye test game for Nebraska fans, right? Because as much as a Pinstripe Bowl gave you some momentum and positivity moving forward into what was this season, this game almost feels more like hey, we just want to make sure everything's still on the tracks. We want to make sure everything's moving in the right direction because we had to stop. We had to get off of the depot. We let some people go and some people came on the train. We got to make sure this thing is still rolling in the same direction. And I think it is an eye test game for Husker fans and how you value what it looks like moving forward next year. Because again, and Ravi, you've said this before, you can look at 2026's schedule right now. We still don't even know what Nebraska's team looks like. There's no way to know from this game how you can feel about moving forward or how this game will make you feel about what this season is, because it's a microcosm of a season that doesn't even add up into its full equation because of everything that's went on through the offseason. They won't have their starting quarterback. They're likely not going to have half of their defensive starters from this game. They don't even have the defensive coordinator from their past 12 games to this game. But yet you can tell, okay, maybe we have the right stones in place to start stepping in the right direction again and take another maybe 1-win season or another 1-win stretch into next year, get to 8 wins, 9 wins, whatever it takes. I think it's just the eye test for this one, regardless of what the final score says.
Yeah, I mean, how good would you feel? Like, let's take the optimist view here, and we're going to talk to Michael Rose-Ivey here in a few minutes. But how good would you feel if, let's say, Mekhi Nelson and Isaiah Mosey look good at running back, right? Like, that's going to make you feel way better about going into next year without Emmett Johnson, right?
Yeah.
Let's say the defense is flying around. Let's because what's Utah averaging on the ground? Like 250 a game? Something.
They are averaging 269. Nice.
So, like, let's say you hold Utah under 200 yards of rushing. That's a win, right?
Which has happened 3 times this year.
That's a big win. If you're, and one of them I assume is against Texas Tech. I'm assuming the other one's against BYU. One of them's against BYU.
No, they're 2-1. 149 rushing yards and a win against Arizona State, and 161 on a win on the road at your Fighting Kansas Jayhawks.
And then what? Texas Tech was the other one.
101 in loss. Yes.
Okay. So, like, let's say you hold them under 200 yards rushing.
Mm-hmm.
That's I would feel way better about the defense because I think this is the best rushing attack Nebraska will have faced all year. Like, I don't think that's a question. Now,
the other you would say is probably Michigan, right?
Yeah, yeah. With the running back and quarterback combinations. Yeah. Now, again, I understand the variables that we put out there that are not going to be the same for Utah, but still think this is the best rushing attack they've faced all year. So if they hold that team to, let's say, 175 yards, that's still a lot, but it's not. It's well below it's almost 100 yards below their average, and they go, let's say, like 175 for the day for Utah. I would feel way differently about this defense because, if you had gone status quo and gone John Butler into this game after what we saw against Penn State and Iowa, I'd be betting on them going over 300. Like, if I'm just being honest,
yes.
Like that's a 300-yard game for Utah, another blowout, maybe worse than the last two. But
yeah, if the game's on December 5th, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So I think there's a huge opportunity here for Nebraska to change their narrative going into the offseason. And I'll be honest, you brought up like who's going to be on whose teams next year. I feel more confident about who I know is going to be on Nebraska's team next year, or who I think I know is going to be on Nebraska's team next year, than I do about anyone else on their schedule.
Yeah.
Like,
no, I agree.
It might, part of that's because I'm in it, right? Like I'm following it closely, but I also think Nebraska's not going to have nearly as much attrition as maybe some people think.
Is there also a maybe narrative internally that we haven't, I haven't seen this talked about too much too, that maybe this is a little bit for some of those guys that might be on the fence of, hey, like, we like you, but we got to see something. Like, is this a game where you're going to see young guys? This show.
Talking about like Willis McGahee.
Yeah. Like, this show has been like a lot of us saying we want to see young players, especially on defense. We want to see those guys come out. Then maybe there has been a reason. Like, obviously there's been some little here and there and some commentary from Rule about like some underlying comments and stuff that came from the last coordinator, but maybe there was a reason these young guys weren't playing as much. So if it's not going to be their day today, when is it going to be? And if they don't perform at the Las Vegas Bowl against a team that you have to be able to show effort, you have to be able to show technique, you have to line up correctly to have success. Maybe this is one of those that's like, if we don't see it today, you may not be in our plans moving forward. And that's just how college football can work these days, that you can move on and say, we don't necessarily have to move on from you, but we're going to find someone that's going to take the spot that we thought you were going to fill.
Absolutely. All right, let's take a quick break here. We're going to talk to Michael Rose-Ivey coming up next. Former Husker, obviously one of our favorite football guests as well. So we'll be right back. That's Austin, Rico. I'm Ravi. We will be back with more Hurrdat Sports Live and Michael Rose-Ivey coming up next.
Edwards Ram and Jeep brings the Wrap Up the Year sales event to Village Point and Council Bluffs. Lease the 2025 Ram 1500 Bighorn 4x4 starting at $199 a month or get $18,000 off MSRP. More to celebrate with lease deals under $200 a month. Lease the 2026 Jeep Compass Limited Altitude 4x4 starting at $169 a month or save $10,000 off MSRP. Unwrap this season's best savings at Edwards Ram and Jeep, Village Point and Council Bluffs.
I think the group really is they're smart. I mean, they've been well coached. So it's my job just to biggest thing for me right now I want them to do is simplify things. I want them to come off the football. I want them to play without thinking. I want them to play violent. I want them to play fast. I want them to have fun, and that's something I'm big into, and that's something kind of the way I've coached. Try to simplify things and really just it's offensive line. I want this group to have a mentality. And who you represent Nebraska. And I think that, I tell these guys, when you put that helmet on it, that's got to mean something to you. This isn't just, an average Joe. This is Nebraska, So I want that to mean something, and I want them to play hard. I want them to play hard, and that's something that we've preached.
Imagine your first dream home and the feeling of walking inside for the first time. With Centris Federal Credit Union's First-Time Home Buyers program, you are at the doorstep of bringing your vision to life. Welcome home. From your neighborhood mortgage experts, Centris Federal Credit Union. We are where you are.
Cause your son has got Hurrdat Sports live. Coffee's coats on, 8 up, Nebraska morning sharp like a blade. Ravi's got the mic, Damon's got the plays. Huskers dreams rising in the haze, creating skies.
Welcome back, Hurrdat Sports Live here from our respective living rooms, offices, and MRI joining us as well. Michael Rose-Ivey, how are we doing today, buddy?
That's the first time I heard that soundtrack right there.
Yeah, our boys had a little fun on AI over the break, and they're coming up with some new theme songs for us.
Oh yeah, I was wondering who cut that. I was wondering who got the credits on that one, because that was
we only hire local bands to do it. So
that was actually me. That was actually me on the mic and Austin on the drums. So
do what we can. Hey, MRI, before we get into like X's and O's and stuff, we were talking obviously Whittingham and the coaching change and everything. You kind of went through this yourself too when you were a Husker, that you had the coaching change like right before your bowl preparation. How weird is that? Or like how odd is that situation when you know who the next coach is, but you're preparing for a game? Is it like the old game plans? Is it like just like what is that transition like, and what's Utah going through right now?
You know, I think the biggest thing the biggest thing with them, I think with their situation is Utah has understood who their next head coach is going to be, and he was on the roster or on the coaching staff, right? So I think that may change a little bit. You've heard his voice, you know, kind of his coaching philosophy, you know how he's able to build relationships and talk to guys. So I think that's a little bit different in this situation. But I think the biggest thing for the players, it's a one game season in that sense. So I don't think as much. I would say pressure is put on the guys, right? You're doing all these activities. It really takes your mind and attention away from the actual reason why you're there as far as the bowl game. So, you know, I don't necessarily think Utah is going to have a decline in performance and possible performance against Nebraska. I am interested, you know, as far as how, I guess, you know, how well they play for the new head coach, right? Kind of gets to show, you know, his debut and kind of what his program is going to look like. So I think for their fan base, I would say it's probably a more interesting thing they're going to look at than, you know, maybe the guys, you know, rallying behind, you know, Whittingham leaving and going to Michigan, not being able to do the bowl prep and stuff like that. So, you know, I don't necessarily think it's going to affect the game per se.
Does it
before
matter?
we get into the X's and O's? Sorry, Ravi. Before we get into the X's and O's, because I know that's going to be Ravi's next question. How weird was it in your mind, the whole Whittingham situation where he is announced of not retiring but leaving the program during bowl preparations, and then all of a sudden he was going to coach, and now he's not coaching, and now he's at Michigan? How weird was that situation?
The writing was on the wall, you know. I think. Was he their first choice? I'm not sure. I'm not certain. but I think there seems to be some issue, maybe with direction of program, how long he was probably going to stay there and continue coaching in Utah. That maybe some higher ups kind of want some things changed. And it felt like a sour breakup that just we didn't get all the leaked text messages, from the breakup. But we got enough, we got enough to say, hey, this probably was mutual, but it wasn't a positive interaction as far as how they were going to make this thing go about. I was listening to you guys earlier. I think I forget who said it, but I would agree. I think Michigan probably had some communication with him, what I mean, or his agent, and probably presented the opportunity. Hey, we need you here. We need to reshore up and make sure we finish out with the rest of our recruiting class for 2026. Um, and get things going here in Michigan, especially and get as much too. I think good press in front of the brand of Michigan after all the Sharon Moore stuff. So I wouldn't say it was weird, but kind of when you look at the whole totality of the situation, it's about what I would expect. If I was to know some more details, I'm sure Utah fans know a little bit more in the message boards, things like that. But from the outside in, I think it looked like something that was mutual. But again, I don't necessarily know if it was as positive of a exit for Coach Whittingham that maybe he probably deserved, or maybe he probably wanted.
Well, I mean, we do know something around here about mutual exits that might not have been totally mutual.
A couple of them.
But does it matter? Like, if you're in the locker room, though, does it matter? Like, do the circumstances around Whittingham's exit, whether he was kind of pushed out by boosters or admin or whoever, or I have this like harebrained theory that he agreed to the Michigan job and that's why he stepped down. I don't know, but like, does it matter if the circumstances are, hey, this was totally mutual, everybody was on the same page, versus, hey, I was pushed out, versus, hey, I just took another job?
I think for each individual party, like I think for Coach Whittingham going to Michigan, like it's probably, he's probably got an extra chip on his shoulder, probably a little jolt of energy. Like, hey, those guys, thought maybe my way was a little bit, going, maybe wasn't as attractive to the new age of recruiting and NIL things like that. Maybe here, just my voice is, maybe not be as strong or whatever the case might be. But he may have a little bit or a lot of extra motivation going to Michigan and hitting the ground running and get things going, but also maybe for that program, right? Like, hey, we understand when you think of Utah, you thought of that coach more than you thought of an individual player, anything else about that program if you're from the outside perspective. So for that entire program, think about, hey, this is our opportunity to show that, obviously Coach Whittingham did a great job at establishing us, especially after coming off of, he came after Urban Meyer, which I don't think a lot of people understand that, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And the success he had at Utah before going to Florida, and then being able to do what he did and sustain that at Utah. So I think for both parties, it's probably a little bit of motivation to go and prove that, hey, I can do this without each other. But I think at the end all, when Coach Whittingham retire, I think he'll probably be welcomed back with open arms. I mean, he's done enough for that program to warrant that. So, I'm very interested to see though. I think I would say a scary thing for the Big Ten, but that's a very, very good coach who's going to put together a very, very good staff. I think what you've seen with what he's done with Utah and just how you have to recruit, out there in Utah, and the difference of, what you have to deal with, the religious aspect of the kids out there, and things like that. And a lot of different type of demographics too. I think what he brings to the table at Michigan, the resources they have out there, I think he could do some good things there at Michigan. So very interested to see how he goes about getting that program turned around after a very tough early offseason. I mean, we're not sure games are still being played.
MRI on I guess on the Nebraska side, there's been a lot of talk about the new assistant coaches that have come in and are already, implementing their differences. We heard during that last break from Jeep Wade a little bit and the offensive line. I'm actually curious more about what you think with Matt Rule getting more hands-on with the defensive line, not necessarily about, his prowess as a defensive line coach or what he can bring to that room just for this one game sample. But what's it like when you are, the whole team, you've kind of had a coach that gets his hands around the team like throughout most of the season, but then he goes full hands-on and really attacks one position group. I don't know if you've had experience with that in, your time playing college football, if like it was either Riley or Bo, like just stepped in and took control of maybe a practice or something. But does that bring more energy, more attention, more focus when it is your head coach that's kind of pointing out little details or trying to give you those pointers, or is essentially the position group coach for that time period?
Yeah, I think first off, answering the first part, with Rue, I think like what Coach Snow said, I mean, if that's what you're good at, right, and that's what value you brought to the table to begin with, why not continue to display that, right? And I think obviously, again, we're talking about a bowl game. It's a 1-game season. Can he do that and sustain that throughout a whole season, right? With what comes into preparing your defensive line, right, for a game or a game week in, week out. So, I don't know if he can sustain that, especially at the college level, with everything that comes with being the head coach, but in this moment now, I think it is giving the guys extra, attention to detail. He's down there, he's bringing energy. He's been in this CEO managerial position all season. So as a coach, and I guess for me and my personal experience, both as a player and as a coach, first off, talk about having both Pelini in your defensive meeting room, you're sitting up straight, right? You know what I mean? That's meetings can be going great, right? We're laughing, joking. Mess up on a play, it's not as brash as far as the feedback and things like that. That door opens, right? And Bo comes in there, with a cup and he's spitting in it and he already watched the film 5 times and he know exactly where everybody messed up on each period. Yeah, like I said, there's gonna be a attention to details that come about for 2 reasons, right? Because one thing we talk about this all the time as former players, and players understand this, and you have to understand as being a high level college football player, that more times than not, when you're getting yelled at, berated, getting harsh feedback in your position group meeting, it's probably because your position coach got that from the defensive coordinator. And it's probably because the defensive coordinator got it from the head coach. And so things run downhill, right? And so again, when that head coach pops in the room, to everyone, as far as the player and the coach that's leading that room, all are much more attentive to it because they know there's a consequence to it, right? Whether it be a public consequence, social consequence of calling someone out in front of everyone else and demanding that they reach the standard, or they play up to what our goals is as a position group. So I think it definitely brings about an extra energy to a group when your head coach, right, the guy that is leading the program, is going in there, rolling his sleeves up in rules instance, right, flipping the hat backwards and really getting to work. So I think it's something that hopefully you'll see as much of an extra boost in performance, right, in this bowl game as the words we're getting kind of in the media, right? So I think it's easy to say, hey, it's better, right? We're getting better. We feel like this is helping us more than X, Y, Z, what we've done previously. But right, we have to see that be displayed on a game, right, against a very, very good running team in Utah, right, for it to be something that we're gonna take heed to. Because look, if I got knocking on wood here, but if Nebraska goes out here and gives up 300 yards rushing and D line looks the same, Twitter's going to be in a hellfire, right? So I think that's where we have to. I love that the guys are coming out and saying that, but also too, it's like, hey, let's just see it. Let's just see it in action before we, claim that it's tremendously improved our skill set and how we're playing. So I'm hoping they live up to what kind of the media bites we've gotten from them over the bowl prep.
So, Michael, you brought up kind of the Utah rushing attack, right? I think it's, when fully intact, the best rushing attack Nebraska's faced all year.
Mhm.
Obviously, they've got some opt-outs. They've got some offensive linemen not playing, and so that changes some things as well. But how much do you think Nebraska can have potentially fixed from Iowa, Penn State, where we saw that go as poorly as it did, to now, whether it is Rule on the interior defensive line or Phil Snow kind of trying to simplify things and get guys kind of out of their own heads and more playing free and fast? Like, how much difference are you expecting versus, like, what's practical to look at here and say, this is a reasonable expectation of improvement, if any at all?
I think now with Phil Snow taking over, obviously you're real more involved with the defense. I think I'm hoping, and I'm pretty sure we'll see it, is a much better structurally aligned defense from the third level to the first level, right? And vice versa. Meaning, right, backers are understanding where to fit off the defensive linemen. Defensive linemen are either maintaining a gap, right, or squeezing gaps. And the third level is fitting not only in the proper spot, but with good leverage, right? And in a good athletic base, making tackles, those type of things. How much of that can be fixed? I would say if we got a 10% to 20% boost in performance as far as looking at the rushing numbers, or if we just analytically looked at the film and said, hey, I feel like coming out of the game, we fit the run better. Maybe, they just got leakage yardage through yards after contact, right? Those type of things. I think that's something that I would take, right? In a short amount of time, 14 practices, right? Again, all the distractions, things that come with doing the bowl prep. You're out in Las Vegas. I tell you what, I don't know what we would do out in Las Vegas with some NIL money. That would be a fun trip. That would be a very, very fun trip. Look, we done a lot more with a lot less, right?
Yeah, your money doesn't go as far in New York City when it's cold in the Pinstripe Bowl compared to Las Vegas.
Yeah. Oh yeah, compared to Las Vegas, yeah, they're living like kings. But I think that for Nebraska's defense again, just seeing how things fit. I'm interested to see how much three-man front Phil Snow runs. He's been a major in three-man. He's also a major in four-man in his time with Baylor, also in the NFL. So I'll be interested to see if he stays in more of a four-man front. And I think from Snow's analysis through the media and through his press conference, things like that, it'll tell you a lot what I think what should have been the true essence of Nebraska's defense this year by what Phil Snow calls and what's the structures, meaning does he, you know, hammer down and say, hey, we could have been a three-man front team. We should have just did it like this. Or they say, hey, we had this is the pieces we have. It should have been more of a four-man front, and we're gonna stick to this. I don't expect to see a lot of variance in their fronts as much as we've seen with Butler. I expect it to be, I wouldn't say basic, but I expect them to be in a very limited amount of fronts, give their guys opportunities to play fast and play in one gap. And I think even more, I say this, and I think back to Rule's press conference. He specifically said these guys should be playing inside the tackle on a guard, right? Speaking about Williams and some other guys up front, right, that just should be playing more on the edge. So to me, I expect to see more of a four-man front, under, over type of things. But again, the structure has to fit all together from the third through the first level.
Is there any type of benefit to, and I said this earlier, Utah being one of the more Big Ten teams outside of the Big Ten, is there any sort of benefit to going to a bowl game and not having to, I mean, necessarily outside of, changing your defensive coordinator, change a whole bunch of how you prepare for a team from a different conference because they play a lot like teams that you've been preparing for all season?
I think there is some things you can take from what you've done in some good situations, even bad as far as learning experience, right? There's ways you can, hey, show what Utah runs, right? And then also show, hey, we fit this up great versus this team, right, this year. This is the same concept as what we saw this week, right? We're going to play it differently. We're going to emphasize something a little bit differently, but this is the look and the concept, the scheme that we're getting. So I think there's some things you can definitely pull from that. Obviously, when you look at how well they do what they do, I think that's where the stress becomes magnified, because these guys can take those small seams like we've seen Nebraska give up, and even the bigger ones, and take them to the house, right? And really wear down on you. So I think, yes, you're playing against a Big Ten type of team as far as how their personnel is. But how well they do what they do, I think, again, that provides a different level of attention to detail is going to be needed for Nebraska to be able to stop Utah's run game and even their passing game. I mean, it works well off of each other. Dampier has a really good season, and I think what they do in totality, they just have a really good structure offensively that can take what you give them in instances, and then if you get a little too aggressive, right? They'll take their shots and try to go one-on-one on the outside and up the seam. So I think it's things you can pull from previous games, but at the same time, you have to be aware that this team does it at a higher level than maybe some of the teams you faced, and just unfortunately, the result of the season is you've given it up, to teams with lesser talent, right? So I think that's again another part of that stress that comes with, hey, we have to be detailed in our assignment and do what we need to do to be able to be a consistent run stopper team in general, for them.
MRI, if I told you Nebraska will hold Utah's averaging just under 270 yards rushing per game. If I tell you Nebraska holds Utah to under 200 yards, how do you feel? Like, how do you feel Nebraska chances are in that scenario?
As far as winning the game, or just how do I feel like their chance of doing that?
Yeah, no. How do you feel if I give you that? How do you feel about their chances of coming out on top?
Coming out on top. I think that would be good. I mean, I would think Utah probably ran the ball 42 times, 45 times. You know what I mean? You break down the average yards per carry. I think you're sitting at a pretty decent spot. That's winnable football. How are you playing on the outside? I think if we can get back to, I mean, again, I think what got Butler canned outside of, what probably was going on at the office level at the stadium, if you understand what I'm saying, as far as the disconnect with personnel, but the increase in big plays in the passing game, right? And that part, I think, really was okay. If we know we haven't been able to stop the run, but if we can't do what we've been continue to do, been great at all year, then, I think it's really, no reason not to make a change at this point. So I think if they keep them at 200 yards, I mean, they're in a very winnable ball game. Obviously, you got to see how Latif's hamstring, how that holds up throughout the game. Also, what does the running back situation look like with no Emmett? And then the pieces you got at offensive line as well. So I think you do that. I mean, you're in a good spot. I mean, we should that'll be a game you're going to fourth quarter down 3-7, 10, somewhere in a two possession ball game type of range where, hey, we make a couple stops, we continue to move the ball offensively, right? We got a chance to win this ball game. But you just never know a bowl game. We saw a TCU game last night. That was crazy. You know what I mean? And I think one of the best part about that, and not to I guess relish in another fan base's turmoil, but hey, we got the same problems they got. I'm looking at their players, they tweeting, what I mean, it's the same thing, right? There's a disconnect. I think there's disconnect everywhere how you're supposed to win now. You know what I mean? And I think everyone's losing their freaking mind over, and even with Lincoln Riley saying, I think our window's open. I mean, everyone's bashing for kind of making that comment, but I agree with him. I mean, I think you've gotten 4 years of your guys in there, right? You just pulled in, one of the top recruiting classes. Now you got to keep it every year. That's the thing. You got to recruit that same recruiting class next year. But I do feel like, although you can say it's the same SC, I do feel like they made some strides in some areas. Now, I heard they did lose their DC though, so I think that's going to be interesting. But I just think in general, just watching their players, just Lindell White and all those guys, Matt Liner, just go on and on. And I think, I mean, that passion of, still wanting your team to be successful. I mean, everyone's going through it. So, as we look at Nebraska, we always point out at the Indiana right now. That's the prime example we all want to point at. But, you got to look at the context of, where we are and, being a blue blood. There's an extra pressure that comes with that and trying to relive or exceed the history that's already been there. So it's just funny seeing other programs kind of go through that. Feel like we go through kind of on a week-to-week basis.
MRI, I guess, just in that same sense, you being an alum, following this team, breaking down film, all that stuff, is there a final score or is there something that you want to see from this game that would make you feel better going into next year? Or is this, like you've said a couple of times, this is a one-game season, so is this just a wash? You just kind of let this go no matter what the end result is?
No, I think there's some things you gotta be able to come out of this game with and say, "Hey, we definitely improved there." I mean, I think I just want to see winning football, right? Obviously, without Emmett, how well do you run the football? Can you stop the run? Can you get off the field on third down, convert third downs, don't turn the football over? And with special teams, all right, that's all. That's a big thing. Coach Eck and what he's done with the special teams unit and on all of the units has been amazing to see, and hope that continues. And there can be one or two big spark plays coming from those units. But again, it is a one-game season. I don't look at this as a bad season or a season where I don't think some things, obviously it was what it was, but some things didn't get better, and we progressed in some areas. Um, Unless we come out and play, kind of similar to what we played the last, couple games. I think if it feels like that yucky feeling, you got, second quarter was like, man, I might scroll through the channel and see something that what else is on for a little bit. I mean, kind of rinse and come back and see see what we got afterwards, kind of thing. But there's definitely some things I know defensively I want to see, like I spoke about earlier, just playing good fundamental sound run defense and tackling, and just kind of seeing how that structure looks. But outside of that, I mean, you never know. I mean, with this portal, how many guys we got out there playing, they're gonna still be there. In certain instances where it may be, hey, we appreciate you, but we need to open the spot, or hey, other guys find other opportunities. So I think you gotta just take it as, it's the end of this season. You can review it, and then, let's kind of look and see what we got going into the next year.
You mentioned their running back position a lot, but on the defensive side, like what position group with Phil Snow and Matt Rule taking more hands-on approaches, what position group on the defensive side are you looking at most in this game?
Has to be defensive line. It has to be defensive line. I would say linebackers and then safeties, right? That would be kind of my order. Defensive line, again, with Rule being involved, I mean, just how easy of a if things don't go right, how easy that can go in a certain way on social media, you know what I mean? How quick that can turn. They have to show some level of competence against the Utah offensive line and that offensive structure as far as their run game. And then linebackers, as far as again how they fit off of those guys, who they're playing in their rotation is going to be interesting as well. Looks like some more younger guys are going to get some opportunities to play. It'll be interesting to see those two parts of the defense, and kind of how they go about trying to stop Utah's run defense or run offense.
MRI, if I had to give you one thing that you could guarantee a good performance out of, we talked about the defensive line, so I'll give you that one. I'll give you offensive line with the new offensive line coach, Keith Wade. I'll give you TJ Lateef coming back off the hamstring and obviously still fairly new as a starter there, or the running back room. Which one of those do you think, if I can guarantee this for Nebraska, they've got the best chance of winning?
It's a good question. I want to go with O-line. If they can protect Lateef and then also allow him to, I think this is more maybe on Holgerson than anybody, actually using, him in the run game a little bit more. I mean, again, I think Rule says things in press conferences, for a reason. And I think, talking about wanting to have a running quarterback and using that element in the run game is important. So I would say, I want to say the offensive line, if they can help those running backs, may have limited experience as far as ball carrier vision, how to, feel those cuts and things like that. If they can open up some points of entry for those guys in the gaps, I want to see, Nelson and Mosey in space, right? Those guys with a little bit of wiggle room to be able to, have one or two options in the hole when they're running. So I think the offensive line, and then too, just them being able to protect Lateef. Utah, I'm not sure their sack numbers. I know for the most part, they've always been a high level turnover, pressure, havoc rate type of team. So, they're going to have some things that they're going to do. It'll also be interesting to see, when him being a defensive guy, right, how the defense looks. I mean, is there something, new or something they're going to lean on more in their structure that they didn't with him not there, and kind of giving those type of overview and type of adjustments to what they do and how they game plan. So I would say offensive line. If those guys guys can protect and open up some run lanes, I think it opens up the rest of the offense, keeps the defense off the field, you know what I mean? And you can play that time possession game back and forth with Utah and keep this thing within a 20-24 type of range, right? And not let it get to a shootout.
That's our guy, Michael Rose-Ivey. MRI, appreciate the time as always, and enjoy the game today.
Yes, sir. Happy New Year's, fellas. You guys enjoy the time with family, friends, whatever you guys are doing. Be safe, and hope you guys have a blessed 2026.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks,
You
MRI.
too.
Appreciate you guys.
That is Michael Rose-Ivey, former Husker and just general ball knower.
Yeah.
Lots of stuff in there. Hey, Austin, it looked like you wanted to say something.
No, it's just, as much as we've been talking about everything, and I think like we've hit on pretty much the main storylines that everyone has talked about so far.
Mm-hmm.
I'm starting to get just that uneasy feeling the more I look at and the more I start to consider what Utah's defense can do to Nebraska's offense, because as much improved as Nebraska's defense can be against Utah, and I actually firmly believe that Utah's probably going to have a couple of gash plays. Like we've seen that before. I don't think you can correct all of the issues from Nebraska's season in 4 weeks. I think that some of them will come up, and I think that there will be some that get by them. But where is Nebraska going to score points? That's where I'm mostly concerned about, and especially with Latif. I want to be positive, and I want to say, hey, 4 weeks of Latif getting Team 1 reps and coached primarily and solely by Dana Holgorsen and Glenn Thomas, that's going to be huge for him. But Utah forces you into bad throws. They have one of the best opposing completion percentages from a defense in all of college football. I think they only allow like under 50% of completed passes, and they have a very high turnover rate on per pass attempts. It just feels like if you're going to get after a young quarterback and defensively, this is a recipe for disaster in which maybe Nebraska's defense, like we've seen through different stretches of Matt Rule's tenure, keeps them in the game, but the offense just can't get down the field or can't make those big plays. And that's where I start to get a little more nervous about this game as well. Now, Utah's out defensive players, but really that loss of Rocco Spindler is huge, because as much as I want to see Isaiah Mosey and I want to see Mekhi Nelson have these huge games, without Spindler, that makes a huge, huge difference for Nebraska's ability to have success between the tackles.
Yeah, that's interesting with the offensive side of things for Nebraska. I do think there's a lot of variables there. I actually think guard is one of the places they actually have some pretty good depth. So obviously Rocco Spindler is very good, and that's going to be a loss, but I actually think they do have some options there in terms of what they want to do, especially with some of their younger guys that I think are probably ready to play at this point. But it is, Utah has a very good defense. You mentioned kind of their disruption and havoc plays. I think it'll be really, really interesting to see if we've got a fully healthy TJ Latif, which it sounds like we do as far as we can tell. I think it's gonna be really interesting to see what that looks like. I think it'll be really interesting to see what a guy that I think, not to throw dirt or whatever, but a guy that I think fits Dana's offense and what he wants to do better than Dylan did. I don't think that's an argument, really. TJ Latif, I think, is a better fit for what Holgorsen wants to do at this point. And having that much time to prepare him, even mentally, right? I know physically he wasn't able to go that whole time, but just mentally preparing him for that role. I do think there's I'm very interested. I'm very intrigued to see what that looks like. And every time Mosey and Nelson have gotten in there, I think they've looked good. Right now, it's super limited sample sizes. We're talking 1 or 2 carries a game, but those guys run super hard. You've got a couple different things stylistically with them. I don't think it's out of the question that they both have really good games today, and so does TJ Latif. So I don't know. It's going to be really interesting. I'm fat for what this season turned out to be. I'm fascinated by this bowl game probably more than I should be.
Yeah.
Like last year, it was just it's so nice that Nebraska's in a bowl game. Mm-hmm. Let's just see if they can get a win. That'd be super cool. This year, I feel like there's things I'm actually really looking for in terms of things for next year, differences from the regular season, even with the switch from Tony White to John Butler last year, I didn't feel like this, maybe because Butler was already on staff, but I didn't feel like this, in terms of being fascinated to see what it looked like. Maybe it's because the defense didn't fall off a cliff the last 2 games last year either, but like I am fascinated to see what it looks like. And I like somebody brought up Bill Bush in the chat earlier. Like I do think simplicity and aggression can fix defense, not totally, but can cover up for a lot of problems in a hurry. Like I think you go from guys not knowing where they're supposed to be, not getting lined up right, and not being able to play fast because they're confused all the time, right? Like if you can't get lined up right, you're starting off confused and in the wrong spot. Like there's no way for you to play fast and free in that situation. And Rule has told us, hey, they weren't even lining up right. That's part of the reason we don't have the same defensive coordinator that we did this year. So like I legit, I look at 2022. They give up 45 points to Georgia Southern, which, by the way, was a 6-6 FCS Georgia Southern team. That's not like that was some juggernaut. Like, that's not Michigan losing to App State, who won a national title. Like, that's a bad – I mean, obviously it's a bad loss, but it's horrifying. 45 to Georgia Southern, 49 to Oklahoma. I believe after that Oklahoma game, before they headed into the bye, is when the defensive Chenander got fired, Bill Bush came in, and then you go – 21 and 13 in your next 2 games. So 34 points combined in your next 2 games when you give up 45 and 49 respectively before that. And then things get a little weird. You get the shootout at Purdue and things like that. But like, I do think there is a potential for it to look dramatically different on defense than it did, especially towards the end of the year. Like maybe I'm delusional. Maybe I just really want Nebraska to win this game. But I think that's on the table. I really do. And I'm almost leaning towards that happening because I like the guys on this defense a lot, especially the defensive line. Like, I think they're way better than they played this year. And so maybe I'm just hoping I get right. Like, I'm just hoping I end up being right.
Wow. I just want to be right once. I just want to be right once.
No, we already have the Kyle Whittingham to Michigan. He's paraded that.
Yeah, we can't. You've been right once,
like twice, and posted it. He's like, in case you missed it.
You can't be right. You can't be right again. Sorry,
I'm retweeting my own retweets.
No, 2026 Ravi's wrong all the time.
Nah, I don't know.
That's your New Year's resolution.
He's gonna be that version of me is gonna be just as insufferable as the one that's right all the time. So, but like I think there's a genuine chance that this defense looks unrecognizable from the last couple games of the season. And first of all, and I've said this before, I will be pissed. Like, I'll be furious if that's the case, because like if this was the version of this team that was out there all along and we couldn't find it during the regular season, I'm going to be so frustrated.
Well, and rightfully so. I mean, Rule has shared that same sentiment, right? Like right after the Butler firing, the first time that we heard from him, he said the same thing. And he said it in, again, like the veiled instances in the way that he does it. But he said, like, I like the guys on our team, and I don't like when a coach will say, hey, like, these guys just aren't good enough, because he's almost come out and said the same exact sentiment where it's, I know these guys are good enough. We didn't put them in positions to be successful. DB's references too, when he's had conversations, even with RVP at the signing day stuff and just, in practices and all that other stuff. I think it's very enlightening. And this is a big game to see whether it is as simple as alignment, assignment, and effort. And if those 3 things were off, it doesn't matter what you drew up on a chalkboard or what you put in on Mondays and Tuesdays. If it can't get executed on Saturday under John Butler's defense, but the simpler form of a defense and a scheme that, I mean, Utah's not going to throw anything crazy at you. They'll probably do some bowl game trick plays and all that other stuff, whatever. That's fine. I mean, this is a 1 game, whatever. It's an odd game. But they're going to run right, run left, and run middle. Like, it's not going to be something crazy. They're not going to do any of these high-flying, harebrained schemes that you're all going to have to. It's the simplest form of football that you can watch. And if you can handle that, you can set yourself up for success, not only today, but then in the future.
Tell me if I'm completely off base, which I probably am. Utah is a more explosive Iowa in terms of how they've just been consistent for many years with the same coach, and they love to be physical, run the ball, play solid defense, and they're going to take it. But they're more explosive than
they
Iowa.
Did go 5-7 last year. So I mean, like, yes, we're giving them like a lot of grace and stuff. They've earned their wins this year, but I get what you're saying. Yeah.
I mean, so last year, and I think Kobe brought this up in the chat too. Like, I pay too much attention to Utah because I've always liked Kyle Whittingham.
Yeah.
Like, that was the year from hell from injuries. Like, they were down to fourth string quarterbacks that never should have played. Like, this was like, I can't, like, if you were watching them last year, like, that was not, like, there was nothing they could have done. Like, honestly, like, I don't even know how to describe it. It was the year from hell from there for them. So I don't put too much on that. Now, they are, I think, I mean, I was really not a bad comparison. The only thing I would say is I do think we forget that Kyle Whittingham guided this program into two separate power conferences and adjusted on the fly and got them from Mountain West to Pac-12 to Big 12 and was still successful at each level. Like, I do think we underrate that a little bit because that's not easy to do. We've seen lots of teams struggle with that.
But that's part of like, he has his style and he sticks with it. Like, when they were in the Pac-12, the reason they would beat the USCs and the Oregons is because they're going to hold on to the ball. They're going to run the ball right at you. They're going to be stronger than you, and you're going to have to figure out a way to score on their defense. And if you can get to 21 points before they do, maybe you have a chance. Like, that's how they've always been. They went to the Big 12, and when they made the move to the Big 12, I was just like, they're going to run this conference. Like, everybody's high flying, everybody's quick. They're going to slow it down. They're going to punch you in the mouth, and they're going to own this conference. I was wrong. They haven't owned the Big 12, but that's what they do, which is why I'm making the comparison to Iowa, because that's what Iowa does. They're going to slow it down. They're not going to change their game to match you. They're going to play to their style, and they're going to either force you to play to their style or they're going to lose.
Which, again, so for this game, like, my number, if Nebraska has a chance to stay in it, they got to get to 55 offensive plays. Like, that's, I mean, and that's even a low number.
That's not even a lot. Yeah.
Like, that's like not going 3 and out. That's having like a couple of sustained drives. Those are probably, like, you'd think field goal, at least scoring drives. And if the defense doesn't give up like 70 plays, you're in this. And that, I picked that number because it's not away from the average for Nebraska, but they've played in games where they had, against Maryland, they had like 58 plays and they scored over 30 points. That's probably not going to be the case today. But if you get to 55, you're going to punt. Field position is going to be big. If it's a close game, like MRI was saying, if you can keep it within 3 or 7 going into the fourth quarter, you feel very good about your chances through the rest of that game. But if you're not going to be able to sustain drives and you're going to be like at, you enter the fourth quarter, you've only had like 35 offensive snaps. I just don't know where the points come from and how you keep up with eventually Utah likely wearing you down, because that is what they're planning to do.
Yeah, let's take a quick break here. We'll wrap up the show. We'll get some predictions in for college football playoff games, the quarterfinals coming up tonight and tomorrow, and then we will get you set off. Don't forget, though, also, we will be back for Hail Varsity postgame show following the bowl game with the hottest of takes. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see what happens. But we will be back with a very, very live Hail Varsity post-game show following the bowl game as well. So we'll take a quick break. We'll come back to wrap up the show here on Hurrdat Sports Live right after this.
It's the season of savings at Edwards Buick Chevrolet. Lease the 2025 Buick Envista Preferred starting at $249 a month. Luxury, wrapped and ready for the holidays. More reasons to celebrate this season. Or lease the 2026 Chevrolet Trax LS starting at $259 a month. Compact style, ready to roll into the new year. Your season of savings starts at Edwards Buick Chevrolet.
I don't know what to expect. I mean, bowl games are everyone's different. I tell you, this is a first-class bowl game, and we're playing a first-class opponent. And so, anytime you're playing on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, I mean, the opponent's going to be challenging. And so I don't quite know what to expect. I'm excited about the work that we put in, and excited for guys like Tyler Knock that now he has an opportunity to play more. Quinn Clark has been playing a lot more. All those receivers are rotating right now, but anybody that's been practicing should expect to have an opportunity to go out and play, and I'm excited to see what it looks like.
Aspirations can drive us. Sometimes a simple gesture is what fuels the pursuit of a dream. When it's time to make your dream a reality, we are here to help. Centris Federal Credit Union. We are where you are.
Welcome back, Hurrdat Sports Live. That's Austin and Rico. I'm Ravi here at our respective houses. And
Rico smiled. My God.
Yeah, what's wrong with you, Rico? God, that's a creepy
I hated
face, man.
that. I hated that.
Is
I
it
hope they
your
take away your
haircut?
Pop-Tart bowl for that one. That was disgusting.
Is it your haircut's fault that Nebraska women's basketball lost?
Don't do that. Don't do that.
People
I'm
are
just asking.
Haircut. No, the haircut curse is only for games immediately following.
Oh, so games that you care about is what you're saying. So you're
Immediately
not a big fan
following.
of the Husker women?
Oh,
Immediately
wow.
The Husker women
Wow.
won. The Husker women won after I got my haircut.
Then they
Interesting.
lost.
But they also lost.
First loss of the season.
Yeah.
Okay, well the men won, right?
Yeah, but
They looked bad. The two first halves in a row, they looked rough.
Yeah, that was bad. Did they play basketball in the first 20 minutes?
Didn't look like it. I mean, Berke hit a 3.
Shout out to them though for still covering after they were 30.5-point favorites. They're up by 3 at halftime and managed to still cover 86-55. Unbelievable stuff here.
That one,
I mean,
okay, that one guy for New Hampshire just kept chucking for the last 5 seconds. He took a 3. They got the offensive board, passed it back to him, and he's half court, and he throws up another 3 with 2 seconds left.
Yeah, it was.
I don't know.
They were certainly doing their best there to cover that. But speaking of spreads, let's get to Bet on It here. Brought to you by Warhorse Sportsbook and Casino, the best place, the only place to place bets if you're a true Nebraskan. Because if you're driving your silly ass over to Iowa, you're a traitor, and you should be punished accordingly.
Yeah, we don't even like Iowa State anymore. So
yeah, it's true. No more Matt Campbell.
Yeah,
get out.
Almost dropped the
out.
That would have been bad.
We don't like.
Why did I do that?
Yeah, forget Iowa State.
Yeah, forget Iowa State.
So make sure forget all Iowa, the state of Iowa, not just Iowa State,
except for one. Iowa
Which
Western.
one?
Oh,
yeah, we love
Iowa Western. Omaha Metro. We like the Omaha Metro.
Is that one?
Omaha
Okay,
Metro.
Yeah, yep, that one counts.
When it's Iowa Western, we do count Council Bluffs as part of the Omaha Metro. That is the only time. Or when there's somebody good, like Josh Dix is an Omaha Metro native. Thomas Fedoni, Omaha Metro native.
We'll allow it.
Naturally.
But don't drive over to Iowa. Drive over to Warhorse Sportsbook and Casino. They've got table games. They've got slots. They've got restaurants. All places for you to hang out. Put your bet in. See if you can make a little money and go have a nice bite to eat or go hang out at the games while you're waiting for everything to play out. So make sure you drive over there. But I want to get these predictions in from everybody on the college. Ooh, I like that better. This is better. This is a better setup.
Yeah, isn't it nice when you actually have your producers here?
Yeah, it's super nice.
All right.
Let's get. I don't know. What do you want me to say? I feel like you've been here the whole time.
I know. I'm just saying that you could have won a DB to do this preview show, and instead you picked us. So thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean DB's a little busy right now, but it's okay.
Why?
No, he's not. The game doesn't start till 2:30.
I know they're already started.
It's literally 7:52.
Yeah,
in Las Vegas.
He sent me their itinerary. They're on it already. They're going.
Slots at 8 a.m., 8:15 roulette, 8:35 breakfast,
craps,
carbs,
baccarat,
leftover pizza that we left out on the counter all night at 9:30.
I'm not a big baccarat guy. Let's get to the games today and tomorrow. Starting off with Miami and Ohio State. minus 9.5. The Ohio State Buckeyes are favored. How are we feeling about that?
21-10 final Ohio State. It's going to be a gross game. Gross.
Before this season, nobody gave Ohio State a chance. They're just coming underdogs all season.
They were the plucky underdog last year.
Nobody thought
an 8 seed could make it as far as they did.
Nobody thought Ohio State would win this year.
Now
here they are in the semifinals. This is
actually the perfect year for the analytic nerds to be so wrong, because last year all teams with a bye went 0-4. They all lost. Mm-hmm. And I would argue there's a higher chance that they go 4-0 this year than any team loses this round. I think more realistically, I think it's 3-1, and we'll get to the game that I think is actually going to be like a toss up. But this one feels like to me the most certain, because it's really one factor. Mario Cristobal is the opposing coach. That's the biggest difference. He actually has to coach in the game. He can't just recruit guys to play in the game. He's got to coach in the game. And as much as Ryan Day was born on third base, he might coach circles around Cristobal today.
That's my one concern with Miami against Ohio State is just Mario Cristobal. Yeah. I think they have really good athletes all over the field, and I think they could, with damn near any other coach, I think they'd hang pretty tough with Ohio State, but I just don't trust Cristobal at all. And I think Ryan Day's done a great job being born on third base and taking this team to home plate. And maybe doing it again this year. So Ohio State's, I think they're going to cruise in this one. I think
and also
interesting in the first, but I think Ohio State just cruises.
Finish your drink every time Michael Irvin is shown on screen. You'll die.
You
won't make it,
dude. Him and his like a dog, on the side, when a play is going on, and then he's just jumping up and celebrating. He's kissing Cristobal on the cheek. I'm like, dude, chill.
He's got that dog in him. I think Ohio State wins. I do think Miami covers. I think 9.5 is too much. Wow. I think Ohio State does win for sure, but I agree with you guys. You are forgetting one very important thing, though.
Julian saying.
No, you also cannot trust Carson Beck. That's the other important thing.
Carson Beck will be a heat-seeking missile to fire interceptions to Caleb Downs. If I could take player props, I would do 2 interceptions for Caleb Downs, because there's no way Carson Beck, just in his heart of hearts, just doesn't want to throw a pick 6 to Caleb Downs in this game. He's like, this is what I do. I do this better than anyone, coach. I have to.
I'm really good at throwing touchdowns for the other team.
Yeah, the least trustable coach quarterback combination, I've said this the entire time, is too much here, but I do think they cover. I think 9.5 is too much.
I don't know, man. Carson Beck only lost 3 games in his entire career.
They lost 2 games this year.
That's it. He's only lost 3 games. I don't know the exact number, but he hasn't
it's
lost
6.
But he was also with Georgia. So
yeah, I would say Rico, you would have only lost 6 games at Georgia.
I would have been on the bench, but yeah, sure.
Well, sure, still counts. I mean,
best athlete on the show right now.
Fastest. I don't know about best.
Best. He wasn't wrong.
I think there are sports that I'm better at than Rico. He's going to test better at a combine.
I caught myself. I almost had a Tyrone moment. That would have been bad.
Cricket? Really bad. Is that what you're going to say, cricket?
No.
I think I'd be pretty good at cricket.
I was going to say cricket.
Okay.
You'd beat me in tennis. I'll give you that.
I'll beat you at tennis.
Well, it's pretty much cricket.
Not even close. I'll beat you at basketball. I'll 100% beat you at basketball.
Just because I don't make a shot doesn't mean you win. Because you also make a shot.
No, I will make shots. That's the only thing
I won't let
rebound fest.
Yeah. Rebounds all day.
Yeah. No, I would 100% beat you at basketball.
You're just gonna Butler that thing, just offense rebounds, miss, put back.
Just gonna what that thing?
I'll figure something out.
Butler that thing.
Oh, yeah. Butler that thing. I did not understand what you said there. First game tomorrow. I think is the game I'm looking forward to the most. Oregon and Texas Tech. Yep. This is the one that I think is the most interesting matchup, and Vegas seems to agree. It's got the closest line as well. Oregon is minus 2.5 point favorites against Texas Tech. Austin, is this the one you think the bye might not win here?
Yeah, and honestly, you know what's super weird about this is I almost would feel more confident in Tech had they played last week, because Oregon has kind of been in this spot. Dan Lanning just loves to create narratives out of nowhere. And the fact that they played a game already and got that tune-up, they had a lot of younger guys play against JMU. I think they feel comfortable. And I hate to say it too, but it's Texas Tech's play style and the way they like to control games still almost fits in Oregon's favor, the way that they have just played in a lot of rock fights. And I like Oregon in a close game, but the minute, if Texas Tech goes up 2 scores, it's over. Like if they go up 9-10, I think Tech can squeeze the life out of them and win. But because of what we've seen from Oregon this year, and because partly because I've been rooting on Dante Moore the entire year, I think I have to go Oregon.
Rico, what do you have?
I kind of agree. I said it before that I think this is going to be a very high scoring game. I think these teams, they both have some solid defenses, but I think that these offenses are just so high powered that they're going to go back and forth trading scores. And I think Oregon just has a little bit more in them than Texas Tech does. And the fact that they've been here before, like you said, they've gotten the game against JMU under their belt. They pretty much cruised, but then James Madison made it a little bit more interesting towards the end when they started, scoring a couple more points and forcing Oregon to fix some things. And I think that really helps them going into this one. Like you said, if Texas Tech would have played, I think I'd feel a little bit more confident in them. But regardless of how, all the great athletes they have all around the field, I think Oregon getting the game in and having the experience of being in the college football playoff last year, and Dan Lanning being a crazy person, I'm picking Oregon to win this one as well.
Wow, tough look for both of you being wrong today. Texas Tech's winning this game outright, and this is just a W. Texas Tech has this one. I don't think we're respecting Texas Tech enough because they played in the Big 12. Texas Tech is really good. This is a win for Texas Tech all the way.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, I only support one Red Raider in my life, so I can't cheat on them. So
yeah, you've got Sydney allegiances there to hold up. See, I'm unlike you. I root for all Mustangs. Big SMU guy. Love Stanton. You are
our SMU. Thank you.
You are SMU.
So
appreciate that.
I'm inclusive of the Mustangs. You're exclusionary.
So when does the oil money hit your bank account?
Good question.
I don't know. We'll keep that's Texas Tech, man. See if we can get that money.
Never mind. You just like rich people. That's all it is.
Oh, that's what it is.
Yes, Oregon famously impoverished in the NIL era.
Yeah, I mean, comparative to Tech, they've got duck money. They don't have oil money.
Yeah.
They need that Dawn soap for today. That's what they got to get cleaned off of.
They got that.
I know what you're going to say. Yeah, you're going to say Nike money, oil money, still more.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, oil money is more than everything. But
what goes further, running shoes and shorts or oil? Let me think.
Oil makes the world go around. Alabama, 7-point dog. It doesn't. Alabama. It just feels so strange to have Alabama be a 7-point underdog in a playoff game to Indiana. But here we are.
Yeah, Indiana, I think, is going to feast on Alabama. This is one of those premier Signetti games where he sees a team that he can take control of and push into the dirt and rub their nose into, the dog poop that's in the backyard. I think he's going to try to do that because what Alabama can do offensively is pretty much just throw the ball and hope that Ty Simpson's going to be able to get it downfield. They can't run the ball as well as a lot of opponents that Indiana has played so far. And that Indiana defensive line, for as much as the offense gets a lot of credit, that Indiana defense is really what's made them so good this year. Their defensive line being able to focus primarily on getting after the quarterback is going to be, to me, the death knell. I don't know how Alabama will consistently move the ball, and Indiana doesn't need to score more than 20 points to win this game. I think that they're going to win. I think they cover pretty easily.
I agree. I think Indiana's going to run roughshod over Alabama, which is going to be really weird to see. And I know that we joked about Ohio State not being, favored and nobody picked them to do anything. Indiana as a 1 seed is going to be the only time in human history that a 1 seed can say, nobody thought we were going to win. Nobody picked us to win. They're the only ones that can play that card because absolutely nobody in their right mind before this season started would have said Indiana is going to be a 1 seed and a national champion favorite when the college football playoff starts. But right now, with the way that they're playing, with how, like you said, their defense is fantastic. And I wouldn't be surprised if they put up some numbers like Georgia did against Alabama in the SEC championship game, just because of how great that defensive line is. And then you have the Heisman winner on the other side of things. Indiana's they're going to run away with this. They're favored by 7. I'd put that number higher.
Yeah, Indiana win, cover. This is a Signetti FU game. Like this is this is Indiana all the way. Georgia and Ole Miss. Georgia is a 6-point favorite against the Rebels. Who do you have?
I like Georgia. I think Ole Miss's time and turn playing at FCS school for their first game was great. I think they loved doing that in the college football playoff first round, but they're going up against a team that they put up a lot of points on. They put a lot of yards on before, throughout their SEC schedule. This just isn't a game that I think Georgia lets slip through their fingers. And I just think the Dogs are going to control it from the get-go. Coaching will make a big difference. And I think this is where you can see it, especially when we get into the further rounds. We saw it last year too, that it felt like great coaches were making a lot of big time decisions to be able to get their teams further into the postseason. And you saw that with the in-game coaching. Kirby, to me, is, so many miles apart from the counterpart that he is facing against Ole Miss. That's the biggest difference. And not only that, but Georgia's just a better team.
Yeah, this is Golding's second game as a head coach. I think this is where you see the Ole Miss Lane Kiffin difference here, with him not being there anymore. Rico, I'll let you go, but I've got Georgia as well.
Congratulations, Ole Miss! You got your first playoff win in school history, and that'll probably be it for a while. You don't have Lane Kiffin with your Kirby Smarts on the other side. Georgia's got superior athletes. Yes, you've been bringing in guys left and right to join the Rebels, but that was with Lane Kiffin, and he was the one coaching them all up. It's your Cinderella run, regardless of how short it was, is more than likely over against this Georgia Bulldog team.
All right, last one here. Nebraska is still a 14-point dog against Utah. Boys, how we feeling?
I think Nebraska can cover 14 points. As much as I want to be positive, as much as I believe that the defense is going to improve, unless Nebraska gets a special teams touchdown or a defensive touchdown, I don't know where they score points. That's my main concern. I hope I'm completely wrong. I hope Ravi and we're doing Hail Varsity post game after this, and I'm like, holy cow, TJ Lateef had 250 passing yards. He had, 75 rushing yards, and he was all wheels, and he was perfect. Mekhi Nelson and Isaiah Mosey combined for 125 rushing yards. If those are the numbers, Nebraska wins. But I just do not know how Nebraska can consistently move the ball down the field. I think it's going to be Utah in a weird one almost. I'm going to say 23-15. Nebraska gets some weird 2-point conversion at the end, and Utah takes a safety, something weird like that. It's going to be a weird game, but I do think Nebraska has the ability to cover because of everything that's going on and the changes Nebraska made to improve for not only this game, but for next year.
Rico, fire away.
Look, man, I believe that I picked Nebraska to win damn near every game this season. Ask them to stop now. I don't see them coming out with a victory against this Utah squad. Like I said, I compare them to Iowa, and Nebraska's had a ton of trouble with Iowa, regardless of the coaching change, regardless of all the people that they're losing on their side of the ball. They're just they know what they're doing, they know what they want to do, and they know exactly how to do it. Nebraska, on the other hand, is working in some new pieces and on the coaching staff and on the player side of things. It's going to be really interesting. I think it's going to be fun to see some of the young guys flying around on the defensive side and some of the younger guys on the offensive side as well. But I just don't think Nebraska has enough to compete with this Utah squad. I'm going to go 28-13 Utah.
Wow, the haters are out in full force this morning.
Shut up.
Listen.
Don't do that.
Nebraska is covering this game.
Wow.
They are covering the 14. This is with the over under at 50.5, Vegas is basically predicting 31-17 in that neighborhood, right? I think Nebraska covers this, and I'm not gonna pick them to win outright. I do think that is, they're plus 425. I actually think that's really good value for how I think this game's gonna go. A little bit better than 4-1 odds for a Nebraska win. I do think this is going to be a close game. I think I think it's going to be not just really interesting to see the defense get that bump from playing fast and free and some young guys that probably should have been playing the whole time. I also think we're going to see the version of the defensive line that I thought we were going to see this year. And I think we're going to see the version of Dana Holgerson's offense that I thought we were going to see this year with what we've seen from him throughout his entire career. I think there was way more plays that he called that never got ran this year than we'll ever know. I think there was a ton of stuff changed at the line of scrimmage. That's why it looked disjointed and didn't look like what we had seen for like I said, his entire career as an offensive play caller. You know what? F it. I am picking Nebraska to win. I'm going 30-23. Nebraska wins. They get their 8th win of the season. They knock off they get rid of, and here's the biggest thing. They get rid of that ranked win nonsense before 2026. So it's not hanging over their head, just like they got rid of the bowl streak thing before this year, last year. So it wasn't hanging over their head. We got a Nebraska W. We got a ranked win, and we're going to have a great Hail Varsity post-game show heading into the offseason.
And then after the game, in the post-game press conference, they'll say, we actually wore white pants underneath our red pants today, too. It was a whiteout.
We got you.
Like, hey, all whites, how you like them apples? That's what's going to happen.
Just get them all. Okay, so before we go, maybe not necessarily a bet on it, but last year in the bowl game, Ramir Johnson had the big day. And then I would argue that maybe the young guy that stepped up the most that we all took interest on was Donovan Jones. Can you guys give me maybe a surprise player that will step up for Nebraska and a young guy that you think will have maybe a premier game that launches him a little further for 2026?
Okay, so give me the two guys again. A young guy, and what was the other one?
A young guy, and maybe a guy that like a Ramir level, where it's just like maybe he was a part of the team, a part of rotation stuff, offensively, defensively, whatever, but has a bigger performance or notable performance today. And it doesn't necessarily have to be one offense, one defense. It's whatever you think. I can go first if you guys want mine.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I know we've talked about him quite a bit already. I really like this being like a Dawson Merritt game. And I think that this is maybe where he gets a little bit more shine. And especially if they're saying, look, we're going to go young. I want to play guys that are going to give me a little bit more effort and everything. This is nothing against Marquise Watson-Trent, but maybe Dawson makes big special teams play, maybe gets out there and makes a couple of opportunities more, and you ride with the hot hand at linebacker. And I honestly think offensively, I don't necessarily want to go young for both groups. I don't know. I really like Quinn Clark. Something about TJ to Quinn. It seems like a good scenario to get your young guys going on the right page before you get going for the next year. And if you're going to throw the ball, might as well go to who you're comfortable with. If I'm not going Quinn, I'll probably go Luke Lindenmeyer because tight end, freshman quarterback, you probably lean that way too. I like kind of both those guys, and you can add the third in with Luke if you want kind of that all-encompassing packages of guys that I think could have big games.
So you took one of mine. I was going to go Luke Lindenmeyer.
You can take him. I took him. You can have him in full.
You have. I'm taking him. He's mine. Luke Lindenmeyer. I think he's going to have a big day, like you said, a young quarterback. I think they're going to have trouble moving the ball down the field, and he'll be that escape blanket. And I think that he was not targeted enough at the end of the season. I think this is a game where he'll kind of get back to what he was doing at the beginning of the season, have a couple big plays, maybe get a touchdown potentially. I don't know. And then for me, the youngish guy. That I think is going to step up and have a really big game, especially on the defense. This is on the defensive side, especially if you're just saying, go out there, play football, play fast, play free. A guy that I feel like does that better than anyone else, Vincent Shavers. I think this is going to be a big Vincent Shavers game. So we'll see if, the change in the defensive philosophy allows him to go out there and just play football, play with his hair on fire, see ball, get ball, which is kind of what he did in the bowl game last year when we were extremely excited coming into this season it was him and Willis McGahee coming into this season, and Vincent Shavers ended up playing a lot more. I think that this is a game for him to go out and make some hay.
Okay, so Kobe in the chat has Quinn Clark and Justin Rhett. Those are his picks. I'm going with I'm going to start on defense, a guy that we've seen some flashes from. I still consider him. Both of my guys are pretty young, but we saw more from this guy on the defensive side. This feels to me like a Williams-Nwaneri game. I think this is a guy that is when you were talking about playing fast and free, I thought this is where you were going. Shavers makes sense for this pick as well. But if you're letting this guy, if you're letting this guy pin his ears back and get after it, and like, I think he could be really disruptive today.
And getting on the national scene for Williams, I mean, he's on the cusp of it just with the profile recruit that he was. But yeah, he gets a big game. People are talking about him being like an all Big Ten player next year.
Absolutely. And so I think Williams-Nwaneri is my one pick. My other one, listen, I've liked this guy all year. He hasn't got to play a ton. He's going to get to play today. I'm an Isaiah Mosey guy. Like, I think I love the way he runs. He's bigger than people think. Like, that dude is dynamic. And I am like, that's my guy. I'm riding with Mosey. I think he has a big day. I think we go into the offseason being like, yeah, I mean, we need a couple running backs for depth, but we feel pretty good about Nelson and Mosey, and I'll say Mosey in particular. That's a guy that I think can be a real problem for people next year, but I think it starts today. I'm going Mosey and Williams-Nwaneri. Those are my guys.
Last thing that I have, and I know I talked about like the Ramir Johnson story from last year. Is there no player that fits? Like, if someone is going to have the Ramir Johnson type day that he had in the Pinstripe Bowl, it's Heinrich Harburg.
I was going to say it's Harburg. 100% it's Harburg.
100% Harburg. That's the only player that fits like that entire narrative. Now, will that happen? Be really, really cool if it did. That would be awesome. But realistically, I think you would lean towards Luke, but man, it'd be really cool to send Heine out in a high note. That would be really, really cool.
Yeah, I kind of hope they don't try and force that, just personally.
True. Yeah.
But that he would be the guy that makes sense with his career path so far.
Yes.
That he'd be the closest to the Ramir Johnson. But that is, we got a couple more. Cortez Mills and Petchak, Nelson and Benning. We've got Davis and Van Poppel. I almost took Keona Davis. You know, that's my guy. Love me.
I thought you might go Petchak.
I thought you were going to go Keona Davis. I thought you were going to say pinning your ears back and just letting him go, just letting him be a big dude and be strong, just go do your thing and disrupt things. I thought you were going Keona Davis.
None of us said TJ Lateef.
I'm still okay. I know they said he's healthy. I'm still nervous. I know it's 4 weeks, but that hamstring, I'm scared of any explosive. Like, if he's in the pocket and he decides I'm going to tuck it and run, I'm scared. I'm still scared for the hammy.
Wow, scared Rico. No, that's fair. It's a fair.
No one's had more soft tissue issues than Rico, so he understands the plight.
I've actually pulling hammy.
None. So
you're pulling hammies, racing people at the College World Series, man.
Didn't pull it. Got scared. It was a little tight. We were good though. We're good.
All right, that is the show for today, and that's Bet On It, brought to you by Warhorse Sportsbook and Casino. Is it all three of us for post game today? Are you joining us?
Whatever you want it to be, dude. You're the
I
boss.
can join. I will be here. I don't have to join. I'll let you guys do your thing. If I have something that I want to say, or if I feel like one of you guys is being stupid, I'll hop in. But I'll be here.
All right. We'll all three be back for Hail Varsity post game after the bowl game today. And to everyone out there, have a happy new year. Be safe tonight. Don't do anything crazy after Nebraska gets that upset win and gets that first ranked win in however many years. Like, don't do anything too crazy. Let's keep it on the rails tonight, guys. But we'll talk
for anybody who's in Vegas. Double it and give it to me.
Why would anybody do that? Why would anybody do that?
Double it and give it to the next person. I'm the next person.
DJ and Headley, we love you guys too. We appreciate you and appreciate everybody that's supported us throughout the year. Really appreciate you guys. We will be back for the final show of 2025, Hail Varsity post-game show coming up later. That's Austin and Rico. I'm Ravi. That is Hurrdat Sports Live.
It's the season of New Tradition sales event at our brand new Edwards Kia Council Bluffs location. Lease the 2026 Kia Sportage EX starting at just $249 a month. Brand new showroom, big holiday savings. Or lease the 2025 Kia Telluride S starting at $329 a month. Or finance at 0.9% for 60 months. Plus, every new purchase includes a free electric scooter. Don't wait. Celebrate the season at our brand new Edwards Kia location in Council Bluffs.
Really think about this.